Good morning students. I hope all of you are keeping safe at home, and today we are going to have discuss on a very beautiful topic, that is Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. As I told you in the earlier class, it is a very beautiful poem written by Robert Frost. It is totally based on nature. Today I am going to discuss the whole summary of the poem Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. After discussing the summary, dear, I am going to narrate and explain the last paragraph of the poem, which is totally based on the visual imaginary of the poet. Okay? Not only that, after discussing the whole paragraph, I will try my level best to make you comfortable with all the lines. I will try my best to ensure you that by using all the references and whole meaning of the poem, I have tried my best to make you understand in the very simplest form the whole poem. Okay, let's go for the first one. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. The first extract. As you know that the first extract I have already discussed in the previous class, that in the first extract the poet is speaking about where he went, what happened with him, and the things around the surrounding here discussed in the first paragraph. Okay, just have a whole summary of the first paragraph. I am going to narrate it once again. Whose woods these are, I think I know. As I told you in the earlier class here, the poet is speaking that whose woods means here jungle. Whose wood means the jungle. It belongs to whom, he knows it very well. In the first paragraph, the poet is narrating that while riding on his horse, he stopped in a particular place, and that place is a wood or a jungle. By standing over that, the poet is telling that the jungle, the forest, whom it belongs, I know it very well. Okay. Thereafter, the poet is telling that his house is in the village too. The poet is telling that his house, who's the owner of the jungle or the forest house, the owner's house is in the village too. In the village too means nearby the village. He knows it very well. It is the description of the poet. He will not see me stopping here. Then thereafter the poet is telling that he will never see me. Who? The owner of the wood or the jungle will never see him stopping there. And he is at that time he is standing over there, and very pleasantly enough he is enjoying the natural beauty of the forest. Not only that, it is if you imagine that how the snowfall is there, how deep the forest is, how lovely and beautiful the forest is, you can have the beautiful scenario of that forest view. He will not see me stopping here to watch his wood fill up with snow. Thereafter, the poet is telling in the very first paragraph that he will never see me, means the owner of the jungle will never see him stopping there and enjoying the natural beauty of his forest. Okay, so these are all about the first paragraph as we have discussed earlier in the previous class. I hope you have gone through it and be comfortable with all these lines. Then I am going to proceed now, move on to the second paragraph. Moving to the second paragraph, we can see, my little horse must think it queer. In the second paragraph, the poet is narrating that my little horse, as you know that while moving from his own house to the farmhouse, the poet is riding on his horse, on a little horse. While riding on his horse, he is telling that my little horse must think it queer. My little horse must think it queer. That means the poet is telling that his little horse must be thinking it queer. His little horse must be queer means he is strange. Okay, most doubtful enough. His little horse must be thinking he must be very doubtful about why the poet is standing here instead of going to the farmhouse. Queer means strange, confused. Okay, dear. My little horse must think it queer. The poet is telling that my little horse on which he had ride and came over here, that horse is standing over there and thinking about the poet. Why my master is standing here rather going to the farmhouse? His destiny is the farmhouse. Instead of going to the farmhouse, why my master is standing here and wasting his time? Not only that, the poet is telling to stop without a farmhouse near. To stop without a farmhouse near. Near means the poet is telling that the farmhouse is nearby. Why he is not moving to the farmhouse? Instead of it, he is standing in the jungle between the woods and the frozen lake. As I told you in the earlier class, I have discussed there where the farmhouse is, where the forest is situated. Not the farmhouse, it is the forest where he is standing And where the forest is situated? Forest is situated in between the wood and the frozen lake. The poet is standing in between the woods and the frozen lake. What do you mean frozen lake? As I have discussed earlier in the class, frozen lake means the lake which is filled with full of snow. That is called a frozen lake. The lake is filled up small pieces, smooth pieces of snow. It is called as frozen lake. And the poet is standing in between the woods and the frozen lake and watching the natural scenario, natural beauty of the scenario. The darkest evening of the year. The poet is telling that it is the most darkest evening of the year. The poet is telling that. Why the poet is telling it the most darkest evening of the year? Because according to the poet, in the forest there is the whole forest is filled with darkness. Nothing, a source of light is not there. Nothing is visible. That's why he is telling that it's the most darkest evening of the year which he had experienced in his life. Okay. So this second paragraph, if you go through it, you will find that it is only the description of the horse, what the horse is thinking about, why he is why the poet is standing and not moving to his farmhouse. These are all about it. Okay. Now we will go for the third paragraph. Okay, description about the third paragraph. So before going through the third paragraph, I hope I have making clear the first two paragraphs, and I have already given a small description in the previous class. Now we will move on to the third paragraph. So just have a look to the third paragraph. He gives his harness bell a shake. He gives his harness bell a shake. Here the poet means to say that here he is referred to the horse. The horse is giving his harness bell, a bell attached to the neck of the horse. And the bell, the poet is saying that with that bell, the horse is trying to draw the attention of in order to draw the attention of the poet, he is shaking his bell. Okay. And to ask if there is some mistake, the poet is saying that the horse wants to ask if the poet is conducting any mistake, if the poet was doing some mistake. That's why he is trying to draw the attention of the poet. Okay. So as per the third paragraph is concerned, here we will find that the third paragraph is based on how the horse wants to draw the attention of the poet and make him understand that he is doing some mistake. Rather than going to the farmhouse, he is standing over there and wasting his time. So in order to draw the attention of the poet, the horse, what he did, he just shake his harness bell, which is around his neck, which is tied around his neck. So he shake his harness bell and draw the attention of the poet. While doing so, to ask if there is some mistake, the only other that he is telling that while doing so, what he did, he not only asked the poet to look at him, but at the same time, by looking at the poet, the horse is trying his best to make the poet inform that why he is wasting a time and not moving to his farmhouse, which is his goal and destiny. The only other sound, the sweep of easy weights and downy flake. Thereafter, in the third paragraph, the poet is writing that the only other sound which is audible in the whole forest is, rather than only other sound which could be audible in the whole forest is of the easy wind, easy blowing winds and downy flake. Easy blowing winds means here the smooth blowing of the winds, and downy flakes, flake, F-L-A-C-K, flake means here the small pieces of ice. When the ice falls and twinkle with each other, at that time a sound is created here. When the wind blown away the ice, at that time the sound is created. Okay, so it is of easy wind and downy flake. Beside the sound of the harness bell, the only other sound that could be heard in the forest is the blowing of the smooth wind and the downy flakes, means falling down of smooth pieces of snow. The snowfall sound could be heard over there. Okay, after that we will move on to our last paragraph here. Okay, these are all about which we have already discussed in the earlier class. Now we will move on to the last paragraph. I have already written for your convenience on the blackboard, and line by line I will try my best to make you understand the whole extract of the last paragraph. Just have a look. Okay. Okay dear, now we are going to move on the last paragraph of the poem. The last paragraph, you will see the whole paragraph. The last one is based on the visual imagination of the poet here. Here the poet is visually imagining the things, the surrounding beauty of the forest. And we can see that though he is a lover of nature, he is so beautifully he has described each and everything which is visible in the forest. Okay, we'll go for it. And the first line, very beginning of the line, the poet is saying that the woods are lovely, dark and deep. The woods are lovely, dark and deep. Here I am going to tell you that the woods are lovely. The word lovely, stands for the beauty of the forest here. Lovely means beautiful. The whole forest is so beautiful that it is beyond imagination, according to the poet. The poet is saying that the wood, the jungle is very beautiful, very lovely enough. Okay. And next one, dark. The poet is addressing the jungle as dark. Dark means here the whole forest is covered with darkness. Nothing is visible. A source of light is not there. There is endless trees and endless road. That's why the poet is telling it is deep enough. Deep means the endless number of trees and endless number of road which cannot, where it and no one knows. So the poet is telling that the whole forest is lovely means beautiful. Dark means the whole forest is covered with darkness, and deep means the forest is deep and dense. The whole forest is covered with endless trees and endless road. Okay, in this way the poet has described the very beginning sentence of the third stanza, of the last stanza. But I have promises to keep. Here the poet is telling that, but I have promises to keep. Here I is referred as the poet. The poet Robert Frost is referred as I. No doubt the poet is enjoying the natural beauty by standing over there hours together. But he had promises to keep. He had promises. What do I promises? Promises means responsibility and duties. Though he wanted to enjoy the beauty of nature throughout his life by standing over there, but he won't, because he had a lot of promises. Promises means he had a lot of duties and responsibility toward his family, toward his countries and toward his friends and relatives. So he cannot stand there and wait for a long time and watch the beauty of nature. He have to move on to just to solve all his duties and responsibility. He have to perform all the duties and responsibilities towards his friend, towards his parents, towards his family and relatives. That's why he is telling that, but I have 2 promises to keep. That means he have to perform all the duties and responsibility towards his family members. That's why I have to move out immediately from that place. And miles to go before I sleep. Thereafter the poet is telling that, and miles to go before I sleep. Poet is saying that he had to go miles together. Miles to means it implies that the poet had to move to his next journey. And miles to go means after this journey he had to go to home and take some rest. You can see that and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. 2 times the sentence is repeated. In the very beginning sentence, it implies that miles to go before I sleep means here the poet is telling that he had, after this journey and after the ending of this journey, he had to go home and take some rest, so that he can keep himself active enough, and he can make himself sure that he is well and good for the next journey. After taking rest, you have to move for the next journey of his life. And miles to go before I sleep. Second line of the poem, or the last line we can say. Again it is repeated. Miles to go before I sleep. Here the poet wants to say that, and miles to go before he sleep. That means he have to perform all his responsibility duties. He have to perform all the things, whatever for what he had taken birth on this earth, with some responsibility and duty he had to perform before his sleep. Before his sleep means before going to his deathbed. He had his all the task and responsibility which he had to complete before dying. That's why he is telling that, and miles to go before I sleep means I have to undertake so many other journeys. So many other journeys are there which I have to undertake during the lifetime of before my death, so that I can complete all my duties and responsibility towards my family, towards my country, towards my relatives and friends. Before I sleep, I must complete these things. I must undertake all these responsibilities and duties. So these are all about the poem, dear. It had a very deep meaning if you will understand it, then it will be helpful for you in writing the question answer. I hope this video makes you helpful throughout your second year exam. I hope you will watch it till the end and it will helpful for you. Thank you dear. Thanks for your cooperation.